Hello, I'm Economic Mayhem, and this is my election primer, I guess. And what I'm going to tell you is exactly what McClanahan said. So let me find McClanahan on here. Brian McClanahan. Let me find Brian McClanahan. He has a podcast. He's done some different work with Town Hall. He has his YouTube channel, and he has his podcast, brianmcclanahan.com. And we have his podcast, and you can see here, you should be able to see that he did a primer, podcast episode 51, 2016 election primer. And he has a very good take on the election. And what he says, I highly recommend you listen to this video. It's really good. I recommend you, he's not sponsoring my video or nothing. I just like his podcast. I recommend you subscribe to his podcast through whatever podcasting that you subscribe to, your podcasting app or service that you have, iTunes, whatever. This is the Brian McClanahan Show. Brian is with an O. And what he says is really good. If you are in a battleground state where the election is close, Hillary is terribly crooked. Oh, Trump is not some angel, but Hillary is so crooked. She must be the most crooked presidential candidate ever. So if you are in a battleground state, please, I agree with Brian completely. You need to vote for Trump. Now, if you are in a terribly blue state or a terribly red state where the election's not going to be very close, you need to vote your principal. If you're a progressive liberal, vote for Stein. If you are a libertarian, vote for the Constitution Party candidate or for the Libertarian Party candidate. You can do that. And that's his recommendation. That's my recommendation. He's right. I think he's right. He's a really smart dude. I agree completely with what he said. If you're in a battleground state, vote for Trump. Make sure Hillary loses. If you are not in a battleground state, vote your conscience, vote your principle, vote for Stein. If you're a progressive, if you are a conservative or someone like that, vote for the Libertarian Party candidate or something like that. Because your vote is going to improve if you're in a battleground state, your vote for Trump will keep the crooked Hillary out of office. If you are not in a battleground state, you can promote voting for your conscience. It's what you should always do, is vote for your conscience. So voting for the Libertarian Party candidate or voting for the progressive Stein or whoever is what you should always do. I agree with him. I highly recommend you listen to his podcast. I listened to it this morning and I was like, this is gold. This is just absolute gold. And all of his spiel, his chat, his episodes are really, really good. And I agree with him 100%. He's really good. He's not a sponsor or nothing. I just want you to take a look at what he says. I agree with it. I think you'll like it too. So that's that. I don't have much more to say. If I'm not in America. I haven't lived there in a long time. Absentee ballots, I've heard, are being thrown in the trash or whatever anyways, especially since they're, in blue states, if you're an absentee ballot, they think you're some military, and they'll just, they might even throw your vote away or whatever because they're afraid you're a Republican military stationed abroad, something like that. From what I understand, is in red states you have voting fraud, and the vote or whatever is a little bit skewed to the Republican side. And if you're in a blue state, there's a little bit of skewing to the Democratic side. So I don't know exactly the extent, but I completely agree with the rumor that Stalin said that it's not who votes that matters, it's who counts the vote. So we need to have everyone. I mean, if you can vote, please vote. But I think the real concern should be counting and using these hackable, potentially corrupt voting machines is ridiculous. Okay, you have this voting machine company, right? Who is making these voting machines? Okay, what if a liberal's making these voting machines and they're skewing the election to the Democrat? Well, then why are the Republicans buying these Republican red states buying liberal voting machines? Also, even though it's a liberal company owned by liberals or whatever, who support Hillary, there could be a rogue programmer who adds a little bit of code secretly in the final release that makes sure that Trump gets some extra votes. You can't see what's happening. They're private companies. They're not open source. You don't have any idea what's going on. Even if they were open source, they could be updated at the last minute, potentially via some, I mean, a voting machine is extremely simple to program to me. You click the screen, you add one, how complicated can it be? But then again, I just don't, I do not trust voting machines at all. You shouldn't either. And I would not be surprised if elections do not become more and more crooked through voting machines and whatever other systems. If you can be a poll watcher or something, that would be great. Make sure the vote's counted correctly. Make sure it's recorded correctly. Many times, the local office, I mean, I don't know, but there's some suspicion the local polling place could report up the chain their totals, and the head office or the tabulation place will, break the. I mean, how hard is it to add, subtract, multiply, and divide? This is pure, simple addition, and they screw up so much. Like the Iowa caucuses, for example, were such a mess a few years ago. It's just ridiculous. Counting the vote is extremely important, and having it done fairly and correctly. So please be a poll watcher, get involved. And I like what Brian McClanahan says. I highly recommend you subscribe to his podcast. He says, act locally, think locally, act locally. And he's right. If you really want to make changes, get involved in the local politics. Get involved in your local area. Look at your mayor elections. Look in your city councils and whatnot. That's where you're going to really make more monumentous change in your life. The president is not going to make monumental change in your life, likely. Whereas the local office, you can make more change and more effectual change. So again, I don't trust voting machines. I don't know why anybody would. Vote for Trump if you're in a battleground state. Keep the crooked Hillary out. And if you're in any other state where the vote is kind of like, why should I vote? Because, the red is going to win anyways. Or what the red candidate is going to win anyways. Or why should I vote? The blue candidate is going to win anyways. My state, your electoral votes. Well, vote anyways. Vote down ballot and vote your conscience, because your vote may not count in the big scheme of the presidential election, but your vote can count down ballot more effectively. And for your vote for your city councils and your mayors and stuff, and get involved. Know who they are. Get to meet them. Stuff like that. Get involved. So get involved. I love and subscribe to Brian McClanahan's podcast. It's really good. I'm Economic Mayhem. If you find this video anywhere else, go to economicmayhem.com and keep in touch with me. Let me know. And thanks for watching. Later. La, 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 la.